I am closest to the mic, without the mic being like in the third corner of the screen. So hopefully this works out okay. And I kind of like the mirror in the background. Okay, so cutting straight to the chase. For today's video, I'm going to be reading you a book so you can fall asleep reading you a bedtime story. I was going to film this at nighttime and have nice warm lighting, but my house is just way too loud at night, so hopefully you can just turn down the brightness on your phone, put it on night mode, which you should be doing anyway if you're going to sleep, and just close your eyes and listen to my voice instead. The book I shall be reading today is this book right here, Harry. I'm doing this backwards for me. Potter. And the Philosopher's Stone. Philosopher's Stone. For those of you who live in America, that might be the word Sorcerer's Stone instead. But for us fellow Europeans, we know the true word is philosopher. Okay. This is the illustrated version that J.K. Rowling came out with. Mine is pretty faded from being on my bookshelf, and the bookshelf also happens to be near the window, so the sun has faded it over the years. But I think the back, actually maybe it is just meant to be pretty. This is a beautiful illustration book. It has really nice texture as well. This is just the outside sleeve, by the way. I can remove that as well. And underneath is just this plain red book. That actually kind of sounds a bit nicer actually. For the purpose of reading today's book, this sleeve is honestly kind of annoying me, so I'm just going to slide it on out. We don't need you today. Just stick to the red book. If you want a full video of me just tapping and scratching on books, let me know. The inside of this book is beautiful. It has stunning illustrations. The artist is truly talented. And there's so many stunning pictures inside. Let me try to do a flip through. There's one page in particular that I do not like. That one's actually pretty cool. It covers 2 pages. I will try to find the picture that I'm talking about. I found the picture I was talking about. This one. This is the picture I do not like. These spiders are so lifelike that whenever I read this page, I have to cover up the illustrations with my hands. They're like, oh my god, like even having my hand touching that is freaking me out. That's how lifelike they are. So yeah, the artist done a really good job. Okay, let's get into reading you to sleep. Reading your bedtime story. Dursleys had a small son called Dudley. There's Dudley, and there's Petunia. They are not the most attractive family. Oh my god, what is up with the wind today? And in their opinion, there was no finer boy anywhere. I don't know about that, but okay. The Dursleys had everything they wanted, but they also had a secret. And their greatest fear was that somebody would discover it. Do you know what their secret is? They didn't think they could bear if anyone found out about the Potters. I've decided to just put on a little bit of lip oil so my lips smack a bit more. That way it sounds more like a clicky whisper, which is my favorite kind. So I'm just going to put on this lip oil here. Okay, hopefully that makes my lips more smacky. Okay, back to the story. Mrs. Potter was Mrs. Dursley's sister, but they hadn't met for several years. In fact, Mrs. Dursley pretended she didn't have a sister, because her sister and her good-for-nothing husband were as un-Dursleyish as it was possible to be. The Dursleys shuddered. I don't have my glasses on, by the way. I'm guessing half these words. The Dursleys shuddered to think what the neighbors would say if the Potters arrived in the street. The Dursleys knew that the Potters had a small son too. They had never even seen him. Finally, I feel like it took forever to read that first page. Anyone know who shut. Mr. Dursley tried to act normally. When Dudley had been put to bed, he went into the living room in time to catch the last report of the evening news. And finally, birdwatchers everywhere have reported that the nation's owls have been behaving very unusually today. Although owls normally hunt at night and are hardly ever seen in the daytime, there have been hundreds of sightings of these birds flying in every direction since sunrise. Experts are unable to explain why the owls have suddenly changed their sleeping pattern. The newsreaders allowed themselves to grin bushy back here.